What's going on, y'all? KMBest here, your favorite 69th ranked Marvel Snapper. Let's talk about the deck that is defining the metagame. That's right, it's Gambit V-Hand, or should I say Lee-Hand? I don't know who came up with this concept of Victoria Hand post Gambit. I've been seeing it in a bunch of different places, but whoever it was, they hit on something that is very, very notable and relevant. Lin Lie is excellent in the Victoria Hand shell. This is a bit of a surprise and also not a surprise at the same time. Lin Lie is a card that Frigga has typically been played with, but it has typically been in very all-in combo styles of Victoria Hand, when you're doing things like Moonstone and Prodigy and really going all in on multiplying your multipliers. I have not seen any small ball Lin Lees in just a normal V-Hand deck before about this week. And that is a really meaningful development. Anyone who's played a lot of Victoria Hand knows that one of the biggest problems V-Hand has is using board space efficiently to go tall in individual lanes. Being able to Agony a Lin Lee and then Frigga that is an extremely powerful play. Being able to do so in order to also say maybe Moon Girl it is almost as strong as doing that exact same play with a Victoria Hand herself. This means that the deck effectively has access to more nut draws, but also the reason for why it is such a deck that needs to go tall is because it is very often able to go wide, fill up the entire board, discounts off of Quinjet, almost the entire board can get filled up, which means you can control where your later Lin Lees are putting their swords. So you can be very sure that you are going to get a 13 power guy, an 11 power guy with a 2 power sword next to him every time you play one of these cards. That is what enables this play line here. And I think it's been a real boost to what is already a fairly coherent and well put together deck, because it allows you to not be so heavy on things like Hood Misery, which while they are good, are at least a little bit more vulnerable to opposing gambits and generally not going to be exactly as good as going tall. I was surprised by how good it felt without a single hood in this entire deck, because that also allows you to do cool things when it comes to, oh, you know, there's a hood there. I don't have any ways to get rid of that. Okay, that's a really bad lane for me now if I don't draw my misery. I was shocked at how little I noticed it. I felt like I had enough power basically every single time. So I've been really, really legitimately impressed with this configuration of Victoria Hand. The Lee-Hand deck has been legitimately very good for me. In the games I played, had about a 65% win rate. It felt quite powerful, and I think it's my preferred way to play this entire deck. So let's break down the cards one by one before we get into some gameplay. Quinjet Moon Girl is a sort of time-honored vomit your hand and do something messed up, with Lin Lee and Victoria Hand serving as fairly relevant things to copy. It just allows you to access a lot of power for a very minimal amount of energy. Quinjet also just costing 1. Victoria Hand loves 1 costs because in order to manage your hand for Moon Girl with so many cards in your deck that are just putting big things into your hand, you really need to be able to get those out of your hand if you're going to be copying the things you want to copy with a Moon Girl. Quinjet helps with both of those things. Nico Minoru is a staple in a wide variety of decks. There are plenty of utility cases for a Nico Minoru. Most of them involve either the draw 2, because you're looking for something really good to copy depending on the state of your hand, or the ability to copy something straight up off the Nico. Again, you copy a Lin Lee, you copy a Victoria Hand. It is important to note that Victoria Hand is still a higher priority copy. She's still usually going to be better, but it is actually a lot closer than I thought it would be because of how easily able you are to just get cards on the board and have the Lin Lees be extremely large. V-Hand traditionally has problems with board space, and this is no exception. This is a card agony that allows you to have significantly less problems with board space. There are obviously things you want to hit. Pretty much anything that you frigga is a good agony target. So if you have an Iron Patriot card that you would like to frigga, Agony Elaine. And Iron Patriot's actually a card that works pretty well with Agony because you can use like something else in an Agony, like you go like Iron Patriot on 2, and then you go like play a V-Hand or a Valentina and an Agony in that lane, and then it's like, okay, I can actually legitimately output points into that lane on that turn 3 for the Iron Patriot, but not fully overcommit to it. That kind of stuff is pretty valuable here, where this is a card that is allowing you to commit points to a lane, especially early when it matters for IP, but not necessarily commit board space to that lane, which matters a lot to this deck, because a lot of the way you lose is you are a very good deck at going 3, but you need to be able to swing one of the locations your opponent is going tall in. So the ability to go tall ends up really important in decks like this. Almost all of your losses look like losing 2 locations by a relatively small amount of power while your opponent totally abandons the 3rd location, because many other decks are going to be better at investing specific power at specific locations than you are. You are a deck that is very Doom 2099-esque in terms of its power allocation. There's a lot of it, but it's always going to be across all 3 lanes, because a lot of what it is buffs and things that take up board space and small guys becoming bigger, which means that you can be vulnerable to big guys being concentrated in one area. Agony helps alleviate this. Lin Lee helps alleviate this. The deck is still a Victoria Hand deck. Like, as much as I like the Lin Lee Frigga Moon Girl stuff, it is really awesome. I like Victoria Hand Frigga Moon Girl quite a good deal more, but it is important to note that, like, there are going to be some matchups where, like, you really care a lot more about being able to put 2 Lin Lees in a lane with a sword and 2 swords in a lane with a Lin Lee, and that kind of thing is going to be really important to your point output over the course of the game, whereas Victoria Hand might be more points in the abstract, but they're going to be less points at the specific locations that end up mattering. It is something to consider. Iron Patriot is still just an excellent, powerful card. Been in the game almost as long, a little bit longer actually, than Victoria Hand has, by about 2 weeks, I want to say. Just consistently been a powerful card, both in and out of this shell. In this shell, it's obviously amazing because, like we talked about, right? The problems Victoria Hand typically has are related to board space. You need big bodies. Iron Patriot can give you big bodies. You need ways to have things that are not just spreading a bunch of power across the board. You need an actual large body that uses its board space efficiently in terms of the points it's creating. And you care a lot less about the energy because you're cheating so much energy, right? You have Quinjet and Iron Patriot. You're cheating a ton of energy. You have to focus on the board space, and Iron Patriot allows you to do that. I've waxed poetic about Lin Lee here, but I honestly can't overstate it enough. Like, if you are able to do Lin Lee Frigga Moon Girl, it's really messed up. That's a really, really, really powerful thing to be doing. There is so much to be said for just like, here's a bunch of power. Also, you know, I'm a Mobius deck. I can stop you from doing things. While doing this, I'm going to do this Lin Lee thing with a bunch of points, and then I'm also going to Gambit Horseman you, or I'm also going to play a Mobius on you. There's just a lot to be said for a deck that does things in this straightforward kind of way. And yes, your point output is capped, right? Like, you are still a deck where it's like, okay, if my opponent is playing a scaler, if they're a show allow deck, I need to be gambiting them. Maybe I need to be spending the friggas on the gambits instead. That's totally viable. What I like about this list is that it allows you to sort of choose your own adventure for various matchups in terms of the things that you're copying. If you're playing against a deck that's like, you know, a Batroc deck, copy the gambit. Make copies of the Gambit. If you're playing against a deck where you need to go wide across all 3 lanes, copy the V-Hand. If you're playing against a deck where you need to go tall in a couple of lanes, that's when you start thinking about copying the Lin Lee. And it lets you pick and choose these game plans based on what you think is going to happen, and I just really enjoy that dynamism. One of the advantages the Victoria Hand has as an archetype is that there just really aren't a lot of bad cards in her space, right? Like, there's just like a bunch of pretty solid cards that she makes drastically better. And Mirage is a great example of a card like this, where it's just like, you could honestly probably play this as a generic 2-drop in a bunch of stuff. you could probably do that. And people don't do it because they sort of look at what she's supposed to be doing, which is like, oh, I'm gonna go into a Victoria hand deck, play me with my synergy pieces. And I think that like it's almost like a Prowler effect where like there are decks that should be playing Prowler that don't have move cards in them, that don't play Prowler because they think they have to play move cards for him to be a good card. And I think a similar thing happens with Mirage here. Like people are playing Mr. Negative. Go take their stuff. Like, go get that Iron Man out of their deck. Oh, they're making a big Deadpool? Throw priority. They're going to blow it up on 5. You're going to take it. It's going to be good, right? Like, all of that stuff is just really compelling with this card. And it's just a good 2-drop you can play on 2 if you don't have any of those reads. Valentina is doing double duty here. She is making sure that you are able to access the Gambit in terms of getting to the actual amount of created cards or the amount of cost of created cards you need to be playing. She is going to basically instantly proc him, but also, again, we've talked a lot in this video about the ability to go tall versus the ability to go wide. And Valentina can very often provide you with something that is going to go meaningfully taller than most of the other options in your deck. I think it's important we understand what Gambit is in this deck. He is not a card you are copying all the time. He's a card that is nice to have, and then in the matchups where he's incredibly important, he's the best card in the game. If you're playing against someone doing Batroc Scalar stuff, if you're playing against Sholau, if you're playing against any of these decks that are putting any amount of early game scalars on the board, Gambit is basically your Shadow King. That's the way to understand him. This is a card that is in the space Shadow King would be in those matchups, and then he is also going to provide you some additional value elsewhere where you can just set him up, fire and forget. I'm playing against a Moondragon deck, there goes the Moondragon. I'm playing against a Chamber deck, there goes the Chamber. You can just do things. You don't need to over-index on him. You're going to over-index on him when you have specific matchups, because I think the thing that makes him better than Shadow King in those matchups is that copying a Shadow King kind of sucks, because a lot of those scalars, they'll keep scaling if you Shadow King them early. But copying a Gambit, you copy the Gambit, and then it'll trigger at the end. It's like if you copied a Shadow King that could delay its own proc on a Craven or something. That's the sort of effective role he has against a lot of these decks that have probably better scalars than you. And that's a really powerful role to have. This is a guy that is doing some legitimately powerful stuff, but mostly what he is your he's your combination Shadow King and Killmonger. And that's pretty much what he's doing here. Mobius is just here. I've been talking a lot about how I think Mr. Negative Star-Lord is the best deck in the game. And so I was like, well, I'll play Mobius in here, that's what I'll do. And yeah, he didn't really do anything. Didn't play against a lot of people where he was doing a lot. I don't know what the hell else this slot can be, though. This is a card that I think is probably a card that I want to have here in order to drag people off of the things they're doing. But if you were it should be a red Guardian, I'd be yeah. As long as it costs 3 or less, I have no issue with you playing whatever card you want to play here. Once you get into the 4s, I think that's when it starts to really gum up the works, because of the way you need to get cards out of your hand if you're going to be profitably moongirling your stuff. I do think that you could kind of do what you want in a spot like this, but it's just, I don't see a lot of compelling reasons to play a lot of the other cards. Oh yeah, I'm going to play Cosmo in here. Am I actually going to do that? Is it going to be worth doing? Because what matchup am I playing the Cosmo for? Star-Lord? But I already have this for the negative Star-Lord decks, and I'm not really sure it's not better to be doing this. I don't know. There's just kind of not as many powerful proactive tech tools in the game right now. And I think that largely what I'm trying to do is with this card, I want to cover something Gambit isn't covering. So just pick a big deck and play a tech card that is good against some of the big decks, right? Because Gambit covers all the small decks and you have all these other things that are valuable to you. But again, you're really just going to be cover the big decks, right? If you were I'm going to play a Shang-Chi in here, I know he costs 4. If you told me that, I'd be I can understand why. Because again, we talk about V-Hand inability to go tall on specific lanes. He's alleviating an actual problem. I have opted for the Mr. Negative tech here I'd never played the deck. He was good in like 2 games. Copy. Frigga is a beast of a card. Obviously, you have a bunch of stuff that you'd really love to copy. Gambit, Lin Lie, and of course, Victoria Hand are your primary targets for this, with a sort of honorable mention going to whatever you randomly generated off of an Iron Patriot a lot of the time. That kind of stuff is very, very powerful. It's the core interaction of this deck. It's the core thing this deck is built to do. Everything I just said about Frigga also applies here. This is definitely a card that allows you to concentrate your power even further. You copied a Lin Lie off of Frigga, now you have 2 more in hand. You copied a V-Hand off of Frigga, you have 2 more and a bunch of things that get buffed by it. You copied a Gambit off of Frigga, you have 2 more Gambits. Like, this is the thing that lets you do something aggressively stupid. And those 2 cards are really like what takes your game plan to the next level here. I try to do deck attribution when I can. I don't know who made this. This is one of those where I was just tooling around on Untapped and I saw what seemed to be like one player tuning and testing this list over time as they moved cards in and out. And I saw the Lin Lee thing. I think what I ended up on is like 1 card off from one of the lists they were playing. I think they had a Cosmo over something in here. And then there was one where they had like a Drax instead of the Mobius. It's clear to me, like, it's like one of those things where you just like look and you see a bunch of the same lists with a really low sample size and you're like, okay, this is clearly like one dude messing around. But I think they were onto something. So if you are that dude, shout out to you. Really, really awesome work. I really enjoyed the Lin Lee angle here as a way of alleviating some of the issues with this deck when it's built too traditionally. I think this is legitimately a thing that could push the archetype forward, and I am very compelled by it. It was very cool for me. So thank you, anonymous person whose data I managed to find on the internet. As always, I have been KMBest. You have been phenomenal. Remember to like and subscribe. We're going to jump into some gameplay from my Twitch stream. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Yo. Okay. Random zombie sentry. Don't hate it. What we doing here? Fascinating.
Opponent snapped.
Am I willing to make this play? This is a lot of gambits. Did I order this correctly? Okay. I don't know if this is actually that painful, right? This discounts to 2. And then I have 2 Gambits and a Zombie Sentry next turn? Okay. Seems good. Seems good, baby.
Victory.
Oh, yes. Popping off. Dude, we get a 10 power Lin Lee and Moon Girl it. Oh. The fuck? Oh, it's a 5 power Lin Lee. That's bullshit. Oh. We don't even beat this deck. Ugh, that's not good. Could just be Doom. Okay, if it's Doom, we're feeling great. Dude, I might play this Destroyer. I'm gonna be real with you. I think I'm playing this Destroyer. Okay, that's actually horrifying. What do we think? Do we think they have a Legion here? They Cosmic Ghost Ridering my sword? I guess the question is, would I rather Drax the middle? But I think the answer is just no.
I'm about to juice this up.
One, two. Oh, wait, hold on. 1, 2. Yes? It actually doesn't lose to leader, I think. Definitely doesn't lose to that. Not a chance in hell, brother. Wait, some chance in hell, right? No, no chance in hell. Nice jump, dude. Thick ass Drax jump there. Ballin'.
Victory.
Snapping about some RNG bullshit. My favorite snaps in the whole world are those snaps because it's like they are supposed to be thinking about certain specific things. And instead, we just do something dumb. Interesting Aurora. Gosh, what am I meant to do here? Sure. So it is on reveal, ongoing, on reveal. We're looking at on reveal, ongoing, on reveal.
I'm about to juice this up.
So it's just +4 over there if we got to do it. Okay. White Tiger. All right, definitely not super happy about this. But I do get one on reveal ongoing. We don't have an ongoing over there. This will add a total of 6 over here. 7, 8, so 15. And then Aurora, the 17. I think it goes like that. Big first? I mean, she was first. And then it flushes something. And it is a Sage, and we win the game, baby. Okay, I gotta admit, the Wong Apocalypse. All right. Fascinating. Love that. Ooh. Surely. Ugh. Seems plausible. We'll see how it goes. Why is he... Did he get all the buffs? Holy shit. Horrifying. We should win the left, and it's just a question of the right here, which we are going to win. All right, cool.
Power must be controlled.
Farewell to you. And then we have a big guy in the middle, and then we have a Victoria hand over here, and that is going to trigger a Gambit. Does that trigger the second one? No. Surely the order is incorrect for that. Let's blow more shit up. How we doing? How much negative has there been? Almost none. The Mobius has done jack shit, except for right now, baby.
Assemble.
Give me your cards. Okay, that's pretty useless. That's amazing. I think this is as good as I can do. I thought they would reveal. If Gambit didn't happen at the end of the turn, they would. Okay, we're good. Ah, unlucky. Lucky enough. Lucky enough. Joe Molia, thank you for the 6 months.